Hi there, this is Nick Roach, outside again, in the park, underneath some trees, tucked away. It's quite quiet actually, really sunny out there, but it's shady and quite cool under here. I've got my coffee I'll be drinking occasionally, hope that's okay. Right, as some of you know, I've been exploring a little bit of the alternative narrative, if I call it that. Others might call it conspiracy theories, and they do fall into that, but I'm not going to go into them to any depth. There's no need. You can find the information if you're ready, and you can message me for more if you want. Anyway, one major aspect that's rumbling along in the alternative narrative streams is what's called a reset of the economy, social structure, the whole lot. Now, this is actually trying to happen in two ways, by two opposing parties. You've got what we'll call the mainstream, the United Nations. There's a website recently set up, UNNWO.org, United Nations New World Order.org. Well, it was set up a few months ago. People started talking about it, and the people listed as being connected are actually connected to the UN. So we have no reason to not believe it. And then there's another one more recently set up, UAS.government.agency, United Allied States, which is a government set up to manage the new system. And again, both these websites, a lot of their information has since been cut down. A month ago, you could look through the whole thing and all their links and all the supporting stuff and what they want to do, and suddenly now they're almost holding sites, which is interesting. Anyway, there's another one called the World Economic Forum, weforum.com possibly, don't know if it's .org, but it's that is a lot more mainstream. There are videos in there with leaders of various industries, and a video I watched the other day with His Royal Highness Prince Charles, talking about the Great Economic Reset. And in this video, an hour long, these leaders, organisations, Prince Charles, were promoting to each other. It is I don't use the word propaganda, but publication, marketing video, telling each other how great it is. Now's the right time for a big reset in all ways across everything. The trouble is, the United Nations have their Agenda 21, Agenda 30, which you may have heard about, and if you look into that, the long-term plans aren't as simple as planting more trees. It's actually it does talk about a massive reduction of population and having people in small areas and allowing the rest of the world to go back to nature, which I love the nature bit. I have no problem with reducing the population, but it's more I'd like to live with nature rather than be living in an environment separate from it and having nature over there protected from me going into it. So yeah, I'm tucked under a tree here. There's a man about to come running past. He might get a shock when he sees me. So I'll let him run past. Oh yeah, not at all. You carry on, no problem at all. So that is the mainstream. they have, say, World Economic Forum, and it's called the Reset, the Great Reset. That's their lot. Then you've got the alternative narrative, which is with President Trump in America, and we all know the media shows him to be an incompetent buffoon. He needs to be got out as fast as possible. And if you only listen to the media and the Hollywood stars, etc., and then other people just repeat the same narrative, everybody knows that, let's say, he's not appropriate, not competent, and the rest of it. But it's said, and I say it's said, I would say it is, but I try and allow space for variations, things change. But it said Trump is actually, and by saying it, it said it allows you space, not to have me telling you what to think. You make up your own mind. It said he, with the help of a military intelligence entity, we don't know who they are, who go by the name of Q. You might have heard of the Q movement, Q Anonymous, QAnon, is working against the deep state cabal, Illuminati, the bad side, who is actually, turns out, are the mainstream narrative, the mainstream. And of course, therefore, it gets very tricky because all the normal people, I'll include that myself in that because I was till recently, believe the mainstream, what we're told to believe, no problem at all. Why would we question it? And this other person doing odd things, and yeah, he's the one that's going outside of the accepted structure, shall we say. However, it's the media, the people who own the 5 corporations or so that own the world media, are connected to the world banks, the central banking system, that produce the fiat currency that we all use. We know our money used to be gold backed. In England, I believe it was a pound in money was backed up by a pound in gold. And a pence, which is 1% of a pound, was 1 pence, 1% of a pound of gold. And of course, things are very different now. But some decades ago, they introduced a fiat system, which is not gold back, just this organisation, which is a private organisation, not government, private central banking system, now produce and print the notes for all the economies of the world that use the central banking system. But they don't just print, and this is the issue, this is where we're coming to now with this. They don't just print the money. The government don't say to them, we want you to print £1 billion, please, and in paper and work and time, that's going to cost 1 million. The fiat system works, if we want £1 billion or $1 billion printed, the governments, the countries get charged that $1 billion pound at face value plus a percentage interest on top. So when money is being printed, it's actually being sold. Face value plus a commission, interest, and so there's not enough money in the world to pay off the debts. It's ever increasing. And the central banks, of course, are making more and more money every time we go and print more money. They're also making money, of course, when there's conflict in the world and there are wars, because they loan the money to the countries because it's very expensive going to war, and they make more money from that. And the same people just throw it out there, connected to the arms dealings, so they sell the weapons as well, and they get commission from that. This is the tip of the iceberg. I'm mentioning this because I want to talk about something particular which has a spiritual reference. So, others have tried it before. Donald Trump, a few weeks ago, it was said, took the Federal Reserve back in-house. He has control, the government of America, control of the Federal Reserve, the money, the printing of the money. Okay? And this sends a message to governments across the world. They no longer have to use the central bank either. Because again, throwing this out there, take it or leave it. In the past, when governments of the world leaders have opted not to use the central bank, wanted to have their own banking system, there has been some reason not long afterwards when America has had to invade them because they're doing something really bad to the people. And then the new regime then uses the central bank in that area. That's been happening for decades. So now that Trump has taken the Federal Reserve back in house, it means other governments, countries, don't have to be afraid of America attacking them if they do the same. It's early days, but this could start to roll out. Now, what is said to be happening is Trump is to roll out what he's calling the people's economy, which is a gold-backed system once again. The details of it haven't been made public. Actually, this hasn't really, it's available all over the place, but you have to be open and to look for it. It's not actually on the news. Partly because, of course, the mainstream news are still these companies which are involved, organisations, with the central banks. So it's not in their interest to make this mainstream news. So, there's a new economy said to be happening called the people's economy, is what I've heard it referred to as. That may not be the official term. And it's a gold-backed system. But exactly what this means with regards to how it happens, I don't know. So, whether or not everybody's the money they've got will be turned into the automatically back to equivalent of gold. There are apparently massive gold reserves all over the place, which from the Germans, I understand they had loads, but there's lots of collections of gold, billions and billions and billions of pounds worth, which that can be used not only to support the new economy, but also there's excess money which can be used to help humanitarian aid and help suffering, poor, deprived areas and bring them up. And that is the plan. So there we are. That's that. Now, I'm going to show to you if I can, because this is what this is called. This is just one printout on the iPad. It's called, a bit reflective, isn't it? Sorry. NESARA, N-E-S-A-R-A. It's also called GESARA, same thing with a G. And what they stand for, NESARA stands for the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. And the GESARA with a G is the same thing but with the word global. which means it's no longer national, it's global. It's the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. It's about reforming the finances and the social structure across the entire globe. All right? I will get to spiritual stuff, don't worry, because there is an underline, a punchline at the end of all this, but it's good that people know this as well. Now it said, I'll just read this, but it said elsewhere, and the documents evidence, I've seen it, although I wasn't there when it all happened, so I'm only relaying the information. And it's all about having an open mind, so take things as one does, no problem. But it says, in October 2000, the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, NESARA, was signed into law in the United States of America. All politicians and media members are under a gag order to not speak about it publicly until its global announcement. This law will be enacted first in the US and then rolled out globally. All right? So I'm going to read the list to you. I saw the list at the start of March when the COVID-19 lockdown happened, and I started looking at some of the rules didn't make sense, and so I started to question, and then once I was questioning, more information kept coming from different people about changes and alternative information, and it came to me. Since then, we've heard about Trump taking over the Federal Reserve, so it's now starting to get nearer the time when things may become wider known. So, number one, in no particular order, I don't think, forgives all debt due to illegal banking and government activities. So forgives all debt, because the money is owed to the central banks or the banking system, and they connected to it. Money never happens. There is no money to change hands. They just tick a box. Money is never given from one person or another with the big loans. It's just tick boxing, and forgives all debt. The specifics I don't know, because I've been saying perhaps now I should go and buy a big house and I can't afford, because the debt will be written off, so I get a big house for nothing. So that doesn't make sense. So, as I said, the details are not known to me and they're not laid out yet. So, it says it dissolves the IRS and ends all income tax. Because the idea is that income tax, we're working all day to get paid a wage, and then the corporations take some of that back again to pay back into the system as paying us to work. And I've always accepted income tax as something one does, it's just normal. But on a higher level, it said it's not right and it's not fair, so do away with income tax for personal. On a business level, it's another story, but personal income tax, it said, will be done away with. Number 3, creates flat rate, non-essential, new items only sales tax. Food, medicine, and all such items will not be taxed. Returns constitutional law to all courts and legal matters, because at the moment we're under the maritime law, more runners, and the legal system. Our birth certificates are registered against the system as a corporation when we're born, and they're actually traded on the stock market. They have a value and traded, and we have what's called the straw man, which is not us. All our legal stuff is with that straw man, and as people we don't exist. So it's going to return to constitutional law, which is on a human level, establishes new presidential congressional elections within 120 days after NESARA's announcement. So complete wipe out and the politics, but new politicians with a new system. Creates a new US Treasury rainbow currency backed by gold, silver and platinum special metals. Initiates new US Treasury bank system in alignment with constitutional law, so everything will be open and fair. Ceases all aggressive US government military actions globally and establishes worldwide peace. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Especially when the US government military actions were engineered, it said, by the ones who run the system from behind the scenes. So that'll all stop. Releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. I mentioned that. Enables the release initially of over 6,000 patents of suppressed new technologies, including free energy devices, anti-gravity and sonic healing machines. Sounds a bit sci-fi, but it is said that in order to keep the people suppressed, it says 6,000 patents, I understand there's many thousands, higher technology, better technology that would help us hugely in our everyday lives, health-wise, technology, the whole lot, and they've been suppressed. So they're going to be released to the people. I see, right? I was going to read them both. They're actually the same thing listed twice. That's okay then. There's another one here. It's exactly the same. We've got eliminates the Federal Reserve. We've got that. Restores financial privacy. Restrains all judges and attorneys in constitutional law. Initiates first phase of worldwide prosperity distribution of vast wealth, which has been accumulating for decades. Yeah. Forgives credit card, mortgage and other debt due to illegal banking and government activities. Yeah. So that's the NESARA, GESARA system, which it is said, and I'm going to keep using the term it's said because I'm not an authority. I deal with consciousness, being. I deal with emotion. Here I can only relay information. The fact that it's come from so many sources and sources I trust, it's still not my own first-hand knowledge. So I'll always allow a caveat. And the nice thing about this, when you're in the mode of being conscious, nothing actually matters anyway. It's just the whole game unfolding. Just the Eastern Maya illusion, a dream, projection, like a hologram, hall of mirrors it's been called. So don't take anything overly seriously. Just enjoy it and be open. Okay. So, where else coming to? Actually, some more people running. I'm going to have a bit of my coffee while they run past. Excuse me. All right. Cool. So, the people who are into and up with the conspiracy theories, particularly about the CV-19 crisis, the media misinformation, the misreporting, misrecording of the figures, the situation, the advice, the medical stuff behind that, some know about, the misinformation there. We've been told to believe there's something else mentioned. It's something we know about the germ theory, that there's a little microbes, organisms on the verge of life attacking us. We have to protect ourselves with our immune system. Well, there is also something called the terrain theory, which has a linked exosome theory. Louis Pasteur did the germ theory. A chap called Antoine Beauchamp, was it? Again, he was around the same time as Louis Pasteur. They knew each other. His terrain theory focused not on the body being attacked from outside, but that the body responds to an outside stimulus. And that outside stimulus is what causes, and the body reacts to it. So change the outside, his suggestion was, not try and fix the inside. So it turns everything on its head. One example, I wasn't going to go to this today. I'll throw it out there, what the hell. One example is that we all know about the flu virus, not the CV-19, that's another issue, but generally people get flu. And if one person gets flu, someone else in their vicinity might get it. But not guaranteed. Not everyone who's near someone with flu will get it, even though it's meant to be a contagious virus. And someone else might get flu, having not been near anyone else who had it, but they got it. Who did they get it from? Well, the terrain theory says that flu, for example, just one particular example, we're learning that when we get stressed, emotion, it affects us physically. We know it makes the heart beat. Sorry, there's a tree branch catching the camera now. We know that someone's walking past there. I have got a tree branch right down to knee height, but people can still just see me. Probably wonder what I'm doing sitting in the bushes. So, flu, it is said, emotion rather, builds up, you can get aches and pains, shoulders, neck, but also what happens, it is said, the emotion accumulates in the body, and I deal with emotion, you know that, accumulates in the body over a long period of time, stress, and that has a physical effect on the well-being of the body. When the stress is not overly severe, it's not life or death, it's just accumulating, tedious. Eventually, when what they call the conflict phase is over, this is what they call in conflict phase, the one term I got from German New Medicine, we talk about this, German New Medicine. When the conflict phase is over and things are calming down, which generally happens towards the winter, the Christmas period, but the body then thinks, oh, it's okay now, that's over, I can release this energy, the toxins, the emotions being built up. So the toxins are released from the cells, attached to exosomes, they're called, little particles within the body that carry information on the body. And these exosomes take the toxins, which was the emotion, toxins away from the cell to be expressed and expelled. So then it goes to another part of the body to be got rid of. In the case of flu, it goes to the lungs to be expressed as coughing and sneezing, and as a temperature to make you hot, to burn it off, off the exosomes, the toxins, emotion, burn it off. And the extent of the emotion accumulating will determine how severe the symptoms of the flu are. And if people have been together in an environment, they've very likely been subjected to similar stresses for the same amount of period of time, and the conflict phase will come to an end, probably. Sorry, the camera's been hit by trees, it's a bit of gust of wind. The conflict phase will come to an end, probably about all of them, and with the endorphins, chemical interaction people have all the time, when one releases them, others chemically, the message goes to the body, it's safe to release them now, so they release them. So all these people releasing the emotional toxin at the same time as flu symptoms. So that is from the terrain theory stroke exosome theory. I mentioned German New Medicine only because, I'll come off this in a moment, only because it's quite a good example. This chap, Dr. Hamer, a medical doctor, decades ago, I forget when. His son died at the age of 23. I forget if it was suicide actually, but he died at 23. He was shocked. Within months, he found he had testicular cancer. Now, this was a shock to him as well, because he'd never been ill with anything serious before. And two major things in his life within a short period of each other. And this made him think, was there a connection? He went through the records of his patients and found every single one who had had testicular cancer had also had a traumatic loss in their life not long before. And this set the ball rolling, and he began to investigate all the major ailments that people have and their lifestyle and the circumstances of their life leading up to it. And German New Medicine is all about his findings. But the terrain theory, exosome theory, it's the same thing. It's saying just because we're told it's a virus, we're catching up somebody, it's a germ theory, it's not a germ fact. We could also have got something a different way. So that's that. So I was coming on to people talking about alternative information. Well, a lot of them are involved with the Q information I mentioned, the military intelligence that's actually dropping information via tweets to the US particularly, and you have to be able to decode them. And there are Facebook groups for Q, and there are YouTube channels which are decoding the message. Because Q can't come out and say the information blunt, I guess it would affect what happens. So needs to hide messages and predict prophecies what will happen, what they're going to do later, but not make it too obvious until it sort of happens. Oh, that's what they're talking about then. But yes, a lot of them are talking about this NESARA, GESARA, the Great Reset. They're waiting for that, longing for that. Can't wait to get the reset when everything will be lovely, amazing, wonderful, fair. The cabal, Illuminati, deep state bunch will be got rid of, and the system will be, everybody will have more than enough, and everyone will be looking after each other, and everything will be wonderful. That's great. But now I come back to the spiritual side, which was the message at the end of my last video about the 5D Ascension. Everybody is looking forward to NESARA, GESARA, the Great Reset, by the good guys, let's say. Not the one, but by the other reset, which is not freedom. Now, from a spiritual perspective, we've got the 5D Ascension stuff, the raising of the Earth's vibration to a high level. We're moving it from 3D consciousness to equivalent to 5D. And people become aware on a level of consciousness, emotion, what they think and feel and how they are inside directly affects what happens outside of them. As within, so without. The outer world, Maya, called in Eastern teachings Maya, illusion, it is a projection. Some Eastern teachings refer to it as being the self, with a big S perhaps, higher self. The external environment is a reflection of your inner nature. Okay? I've been saying that for the last how many years. That's not new. And that isn't going to change. That knowledge is coming up in more people, and they're going to know more about the ability they have to change and affect what happens. So NESARA, GESARA is all very well, and it's great. But if you're focusing on that to save you and make your life better, then again you've missed the point. You're still tied to the 3D system. You just want it to be better than it is now, which is fair enough. But if you're following a spiritual consciousness way to be, then you don't look to something outside you to save you. You do your work yourself, on yourself, and that will change the external environment. Change here first. It happens within you because you are consciousness. This is a projection of your inner world projected outwards for you to experience it. Once you're out here, if you concentrate on what's happening outside you, the energy from inside will keep expressing itself because you're not addressing the source. You're not solving the energy that's creating the problem outside. You're rummaging around in the problem using that analogy. It's like standing outside someone's house on the street, trying to keep the street clean and tidy outside their house when they keep throwing rubbish out of their front door onto the street. And you spend your whole time tidying up the rubbish, trying to clean up, picking up the litter. When actually, speak to the right people and get that stopped. If you're worrying about the outside world, then you're just doing the same thing as the person rummaging around to hands and knees, picking up the litter outside someone's house while they're coming out, bringing out more litter. You'll be there forever. You can never manage to pick it all up because there's always more. You need to go to the source. So, in this case, feel inside, feel the stillness, and feel the energy of the situation. If there's a disturbance outside you, any problem, feel the energy of it, the emotional disturbance. And I'm telling you that is the same energy that is creating the physical problem outside. You've got it, you're at the source. That disturbance is the same as going to that man throwing the rubbish and him being told, stop that or you'll get fined, locked up, carted off, whatever. That's being stopped. Holding the feeling inside you, this disturbance, the emotional disturbance, is holding the energy that's creating the outside. You've got it, you're dealing with it. Let go of that and stop worrying about the problems again, and you're not dealing with the source. You're allowing it to continue creating the problems. So why was I saying all that? Because we're coming back to NESARA, GESARA. In the 5D Ascension, the 5D New Earth, I call it, it is said literally, your level of abundance will be directly determined and directed by your level of consciousness inside. And everyone will know this. The more conscious and still you are, the more you experience your environment, your physical environment, because we'll still be physical. The 5D dimension, fifth dimension is not physical apparently, it's more energetic, but will be physical bodies with a 5D consciousness. So the 5D consciousness will know, the people will know, I'm directly creating my experience. I'm directly creating what I'm experiencing now. And as you work with that, the more conscious you are, the more everything you need at any moment is provided for you. Which is how it is anyway. It's just because you're not conscious, let's say, I don't know you, you have emotions, you worry about stuff, have problems, you're focusing on the problems, and so you're creating problems outside like I've described. By focusing within, there are no problems. And if they only happen, the emotion comes up inside, you feel it, and it's dissolved, and the problem's resolved. So the 5D is this, being ramped up, so everybody's on this state. So everybody is spiritually enlightened, let's say. But then you see in my video on the Russian dolls about the stages of enlightenment. It's not enough just to be enlightened and be in a state where there's nobody here. That's not what we're talking about. It's the emotional, conscious level of acknowledging, I am this. This is my own being, and I'm living consciously, connected with a stillness. And if any disturbance there, I dissolve that, and that addresses the problem outside. It starts within. And the great real reset, the great awakening as it's called, is actually on a spiritual level into 5D consciousness, where you will get everything that you need. You already do. But your mind just doesn't like it very much. So we're getting the mind out of the way, and then things can flow properly, gently, giving you exactly what you need when you need it in the moment, and you'll know you're in tune, in alignment with exactly what's happening, rather than stuff happening is what you need to try to wake you up, and you're annoyed and worrying about it because it's not what you want. But that's not what's going to be happening. So that means, to me, at the moment, all these conspiracy people that are on the groups looking forward to the NESARA, GESARA, fighting for it, looking forward to it, discussing it, at the moment, they've missed the point. The physical will change, lovely. But that's the outer level. And if you really want to change, it's got to be done within. If only, for example, if all that I've read out there does happen, and there's plenty for everybody, still, this is your own consciousness. This is still you, your being. So there'll still be problems in your life. You'll still have relationship issues, people you're falling out with, people you're arguing with, people who are dying, people who are leaving you. On the physical level, if you accept that, people will still be horrible to each other. People will still bicker and fight, but not in the 5D consciousness. Because when everyone's in 5D, no need for that. So it starts here. And that was the point of the video. It is said the 5D, your level of abundance will be directly related, determined by and to your level of consciousness within. Your understanding, acknowledgement that as within, so without. And that's the point. That's what I want you to hold on to. Because when the NESARA is properly made public, NESARA and GESARA, the global one, it'll be great information, but I'm still slightly concerned that not many people are going to go through the consciousness level into the 5D stage. Hopefully it will happen, hopefully the energy will pick up, and people will. People are waking up, is what they call, I'm awake, because they've heard of NESARA, GESARA, or they've realised that the virus stuff isn't real, or they've seen the media's lying to them, and they think they're awake now. Well, there's so much more to it. Really awake is being in your own consciousness, fully realised. And as I mentioned last time, that is to be your sovereign nature. Pure consciousness. That's true sovereignty. To be your true, pure consciousness, the Christ consciousness. To be a sovereign being It's not just to have plenty of gold, plenty of money, a nice car. And it's not to know about all the conspiracy stuff. To be a sovereign being is to be awake to your own true nature, your own consciousness, aware of being aware. Like now again, sitting on the chair, if you are, feel your breathing, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the screen, be aware of what's around the screen that you're looking at. And now you can be aware that you are aware of these things, and you hold that. And that is to be the true nature, the sovereign being, pure consciousness. And the more you hold it, the more you'll come back to it. And eventually, that's your natural state. That's where we're going. So that's it. Thanks for listening. Some of it will be old news to some of you. Some of it will be outrageous, mind-blowing nonsense to others. Hopefully there'll be a few that will find it possibly slightly outrageous, but not nonsense. And you start looking, and I've got more information if you want it. If you want to put in the comments any questions, I'll post a few links for you. But yeah, massive. So much going on, so much has been going on, but everything is within. Everything, the inner, is a reflection or reflected by the outer. The outer is a reflection. As within, so without. This is your own self, pure consciousness. Stay with that. Thank you.